What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video, and today we're taking a look at some good mid-major teams so far early in this college basketball season. These are teams that I think can win their league, make it to March Madness, and maybe even get a win or two in the March Madness tournament. I'm ready to get started. I just want to say subscribe if you guys are new. We do a ton of college basketball content here on the channel. You don't want to miss it. And let's get it started. Alright, so I got 6 teams here for you guys, and coming in here at number 6, I do have South Dakota State. And the Jackrabbits have looked pretty good so far early in this season. They're 3-0. They're the only undefeated team in their league, which is the Summit League. And they've just had a very steady team over the past so many years. Under head coach Eric Henderson, he's been there coaching since 2019. They've had 2 March Madness tournament appearances and winning the Summit League tournament. And even when they don't win the Summit League tournament, they are always towards the top of their league and one of the favorites to win that league. And so far, they have some pretty good scorers on their team as well. Oscar Clough is a big man who is averaging 18 points and 14 rebounds a game through their first 3 games. And they have a freshman, Joe Saylor, who is a 20-point-per-game scorer as a freshman. So I believe they have a couple of key playmakers on this team, along with being a pretty well-coached team over the past so many years. I feel like they could get back to the March Madness tournament out of the Summit League this season. Coming in here at number 5, I have High Point. And High Point is one of my favorite mid-majors to watch last year. They look to be a pretty well-coached team. And in their league, which is the Big South, I think it's them and Winthrop as some of the top teams in that conference. They're 3-0 so far. They have 3 senior guards who play very well together and all average a decent amount of points. You never know who is going to be the guy on any given night out of these 3 guards to really take over the game. It could be any one of them, which is so valuable in a league like the Big South, which is going to be a one-bid league. It is only going to be the conference winner who does make the tournament out of the Big South. And they were a really good team last year. Like I said, they were one of my favorite mid-majors to watch last year, but they did not win the conference tournament. I believe they were the 1 seed in the Big South heading into the tournament, but was unable to make it to March Madness. And High Point, as a program, their school has never made it to the March Madness tournament. So I think that this year, especially with the year that they had last year, the returning talent on this team, 3 senior guards, I think that this is the year that they can win their league and make their first ever March Madness and maybe even pull off an upset when they get there. Next up, coming in here at number 4, I have 2 teams, but really we're going to be talking about one, and then the other one is going to be honorable mention. But I'm putting them together because they are in the same league, and only one of these teams are going to make the March Madness tournament. And the one that I am going to be talking about at number 4 is Austin Peay. Austin Peay has been one of the most must-watch teams in the mid-major of college basketball so far this season. They're 3-0 with a win over Butler, so they got a Power 5 win, and one of their starting players is Hansel Emmanuel, which is must-watch TV, one of the biggest stories in college basketball right now, because he was a social media star. He only has 1 arm, and now he's playing college ball at the D1 level. And yeah, he's not averaging the most crazy numbers, but he's very athletic. He can throw down a dunk, get a highlight. Very fun to watch, and they got some other good players on their team as well, and especially LJ Thomas. LJ Thomas, through these first 3 games, is averaging 20 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists, and they're just looking really good. So look out for Austin Peay, 3-0 with a win over Butler. They could be the team to come out of the A10 Conference this year, and yeah, I'm keeping my eye out on the Governors. But the other team, which is an honorable mention that is in the A10, is North Florida, and they just lost to Georgia the other day, which kind of killed a lot of their momentum, but that is losing to a Power 5 opponent, and they're still 2-1 against Power 5 opponents this year because they also beat South Carolina and Georgia Tech. So North Florida have been giant killers so far. Yeah, Georgia Tech and South Carolina aren't the best Power 5 teams, but they were still significant favorites over North Florida, and North Florida was able to get the job done, and they're still 3-1 on the season with their only loss to be Georgia, and Georgia is a sneaky team who might actually make the March Madness tournament out of the SEC, so look out for North Florida. I think Austin Peay or North Florida, one of these teams, have a good shot at coming out of the A10 Conference. Now we're getting into our top 3, and these 3 teams, I believe, all have a legit shot at getting a top 11 to 10 seed or even higher as mid-majors. These 3 teams, I believe, can not only win a game in March Madness, but could possibly make the Sweet 16, and given the right path, maybe even the Elite Eight. So let's get into these top three mid-majors in college basketball. Number 3, I do have a team out of the Mountain West, and the Mountain West looks not as good as the past so many years, but it still is going to be pretty good, and I actually feel like it could be more underrated than it actually is, because they've been so good in recent years, and they're kind of dropped off a little bit. They're still really good, and I think they're going to be underrated. And the team I want to talk about, though, is New Mexico. The New Mexico Lobos look really good, which is kind of surprising. We knew that they would still be good, but they lost 2 of their top players. They lost Jamal Mashburn in the transfer portal, and they lost JT Toppin in the transfer portal, but they still look really good. I can only imagine if they still had JT Toppin, because he transferred over to Texas Tech. He's averaging over 20 points per game in the Big 12 Conference so far. Yeah, they haven't played anybody in the Big 12 Conference yet, but still, he is looking really good for the Red Raiders. But New Mexico still undefeated, 3-0 so far this year, and they beat a top 25 opponent in UCLA. They defeated UCLA on a neutral court in Las Vegas, looking really good. They still have one of their top players from last year, and he is definitely going to be a top player in the country this year, in Donovan Dent. An amazing playmaking point guard who can playmake for his team. He can score, great driver. Donovan Dent, going to be one of my favorite players in the mid-major conferences this season. And they play St. John's on Sunday in Madison Square Garden. It's going to be the Pitino Bowl. Richard Pitino, the head coach of New Mexico, is going to face his dad's team, Rick Pitino, in St. John's this Sunday. It's going to be a good game, and if they can pull off a win against St. John's, it's going to be very hard, even if they don't win the Mountain West Conference tournament, to keep New Mexico out of March Madness with wins over UCLA and St. John's, who both should be the March Madness teams this year. Next up, let's talk about the A10 Conference, because there are so many teams out of the A10 Conference that could take this league this year, and I think it might be a 2-bid league this year at least, possibly even a 3-bid if they can keep it up. The A10 is always one of the top mid-major conferences, and they look really good so far, and specifically VCU. Virginia Commonwealth has looked very good, and I also want to give a honorable mention, similar how I did to North Florida, to Dayton, because Dayton has also looked really good out of this conference, but I am going to give this number 2 slot to VCU because they have looked that good so far. They're 3-0 so far this year, and every win they've won by at least 20 points or more. They beat Boston College by more than 20, which is a Power 5 opponent. Yes, Boston College is probably one of the worser teams in the Power 5, but still, they beat them by over 20 points, and that is a good win. And they have 2 18-plus point per game scorers, and Joe Bamisile and also Philip Russell, who look really good. Them and Dayton, I feel like, are going to be the top 2 teams in the A10 Conference, but you can never count out teams like Loyola Chicago, Richmond. Even St. Joseph's looks pretty good so far this year. Yes, Villanova isn't that good, but that's still a good win for St. Joseph's. And you got other teams like LaSalle and also Rhode Island that are undefeated so far this year that you can't count out up to this point. So look out for the A10 Conference, guys. VCU and Dayton would be my pick, but definitely Loyola Chicago and Richmond. You can never count them out in this league. And finally, my top mid-major team so far early in the season is going to be Grand Canyon. I would be very surprised if Grand Canyon does not win their league tournament and make it to March Madness this year. They were so good last year, and they are returning pretty much all their stars, along with another guy in the transfer portal that we will talk about. But Grand Canyon, a well-coached team, they made it to March Madness last year. Not only did they make it to March Madness, they got a first-round win and lost in the second round to Alabama, who went on to make it to the Final Four. And they were keeping it close with Alabama throughout that entire game. So keeping it close in the second round with a team who went on to make the Final Four as a team like Grand Canyon, very impressive. And they are returning their point guard, Ray Harrison, who already hit a buzzer-beater layup against Western Kentucky this year. They are returning Tyon Grant Foster, who is one of the stars of mid-major basketball last year and is going to be one of the stars of college basketball in general this year. He has yet to make his debut for this season, as he did have a slight injury, but he is supposed to start tonight as I am recording this video against Arizona State. So Tyon Grant Foster will be back today. So only missing 2 games in the season for Grand Canyon, and they still were able to go 2-0. But they got other guys on this team like Colin Moore averaging 16 points per game. I don't expect him to maintain 16 points per game throughout the whole season with Tyon Grant Foster returning. He's probably going to take a lot more of those touches, but I still think Colin Moore is going to be a fantastic good piece for this team. And Jacoby Coles, who formerly played at TCU, is playing really good as a big man for this Grand Canyon team, averaging 21 points and 12 rebounds so far this season. So Grand Canyon undoubtedly going to be the top mid-major this season with all the returning talent they have from that team who made it to the second round last year. They're going to be really good. I would be very surprised. It would take a big upset for Grand Canyon to not make it out of their league and make it to March Madness this year. And when they do get there, they are going to be very dangerous. But let me know what you guys think about my list. What do you guys think about these mid-majors? And if there is another mid-major that you guys think can make some noise in March Madness this year that I did miss out on, let me know down below in the comment section. And yeah, guys, make sure you guys subscribe for more college basketball content here all the time. You don't want to miss it. And thank you so much for watching.